Beyond the headlines, the noise, the spin, we seek the stories that live within. Past party lines, past powers disguised, we hear the truth in everyday lives. A space for voices, both gentle and strong. Beyond politics, where we all belong.
Hi everyone, my name is Jing Chen and welcome to another episode of Beyond Politics on Ozark Media. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Ash Ambihaipahar MP, member for Barton. Barton lies in Sydney's inner south, is roughly bounded by the Cooks River, Canterbury Road and King George's Road, with major centres including Elwood, Arncliffe, Rockdale, Bexley, Correa, Kingsgrove and most of Hurstville. It also covers part of Canterbury, Campsie and Roselands and is one of the most multicultural electorates in Australia. Welcome, Ash.
Hi, thanks for having me, Jen.
And congratulations on nearly reaching that 1 year anniversary since winning Barton.
It feels like 10 years.
Let's talk about it later. Okay, now, you have already outlined some of your experiences growing up in your inaugural speech, but of course, we always want to know more. So before becoming a MP, who were you and what shaped your values growing up?
So, Jen, that question's a really interesting one. I'm still Ash, but one of the most important things as a new MP, my personal experience has played a big role on where I am right now as a local federal member. Prior to being elected, I worked at St Vincent's de Paul Society, which is a large charity, and did a lot of work as a regional director looking after the Vinnie support centres and the van services. Before that, I practiced as a lawyer for about 10 years in employment industrial relations law. So I worked with a number of unions as well as an employers association. And then before that, I used to teach med students at the University of Sydney, doing cadaver work and embalming for about 8 years. So quite diverse, got a bit of council experience, but personally I grew up in Hurstville. I was raised by my uncle and a number of different families from the electorate.
I did look up that University of Sydney experience specifically because that was so intriguing and different. Yeah. Now, what's something that people often misunderstand about you?
One of the things that I feel like people do misunderstand is my calmness about certain circumstances. It's not a reflection of being weak, but being really careful around how do we respond to different situations. So I think that's probably something that gets maybe misunderstood, but no one's actually expressed that to me. So maybe that's something I'll learn as an MP.
Let's look at your personal experiences a bit more. And indeed, your experiences can best be summed up by what you said about a mosaic of cultures, traditions, and faiths, and that you live and breathe multiculturalism.
Yes.
As a child, though, did you ever feel lonely or that things were just a little bit too transient?
No, so I did get to talk about it a little bit in my first speech, but in a nutshell, as an Australian with a Sri Lankan and Papua New Guinean background, which is quite unique, when I was born, it was quite difficult for my family to have a child before wedlock, and so my uncle volunteered to help raise me in Hurstville. And I also was raised by a Maltese and Italian family as well. And, growing up in that sort of environment where I was immersed in different cultures has been quite, I think it's such a privilege to be able to live in that sort of upbringing because you get to have a better understanding of differences, but also knowing that you had a lot of love and support from all these wonderful people made it a much more positive experience, yeah.
Do you still keep in contact with
them? Of course, yeah. So Easter was very busy. We just had Easter. So I spent a lot of time with one of the families, the Italian family from Elwood, at Our Lady of Lourdes on the weekend. Wow. So I do make the time to try and catch up with them like the rest of my family because they are family.
Just a follow-up question on that. What were they like when they knew about your successful progression as a federal member of Parliament?
Oh, they were so happy. A lot of them did come to attend the first speech, which was wonderful. But also knowing that Mother's Days, Father's Days, Christmas, Easters can be very full on because there's so many important people that had a role in my upbringing. So they're very proud of me.
Yeah, and you have a lot of gifts to prepare every time when it comes to festivals, I guess.
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. How have these experiences then shaped your view on politics?
I think by having that experience of a diverse upbringing makes me quite open-minded, really around perspective. One of the things that I would criticise on governments, generally speaking, is that it can come across very cookie cutter, and having really good understanding of cultural sensitivities can be quite complex, and that's why very bespoke community groups play an important role to support those different diasporas. And so me being able to be raised in those different communities in the electorate has allowed me to be quite open-minded, but also understanding of the cultural nuances with each diaspora.
Yeah. At what point then did you decide to step into public life?
I think I didn't choose it actively or thinking about it very actively. So I was a number 2 candidate in council, and I was elected through a count-back process in September 2022.
Yeah.
So I was kind of thrusted into that world of representation through that. I didn't plan it, but that kind of also really worked really well with my practice as a solicitor. So when you're advocating, it's very much of a similar vein as to the work you would do as a councillor, a local councillor. And yeah, just different opportunities came up along the way, running for a state candidate for the seat of Oatley in 2023, and then more recently as the candidate for Barton. Yeah.
I guess that experience of industrial representation, that experience of helping workers also helped you along the way as well.
And I think it's also a personality thing as well. So even though I worked a lot specifically in protecting workers' rights, it's also important to have a balanced approach of understanding the employer's perspective, but also understanding where the imbalances occur, right? And so even though practicing as a lawyer for a long period of time in the union movement also helped me also support a lot of employers as well, making sure that they're doing right by their workers, making sure they have a good working culture as well. So yeah, I think that's the important thing.
I do remember that point vividly in your inaugural speech that you mentioned, and you stressed that employers and employees are not necessarily on opposing sides.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think we naturally try to find a division in things, us versus them, and I don't think it necessarily is applicable. It doesn't apply all the time. I think there is always a good fine balance between whether the employer and the employee's rights or I think there's a way that we can work collectively.
Okay. Now, let's look at your role in local government closely.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, you were elected in 2022 representing the Mortdale ward as a councillor to Georges River Council.
Yeah.
Now, what was it like being a councillor, and what were some of the significant achievements during your tenure?
So, like I said, I was elected into council purely out of chance. Warren Tegg was the former councillor who stepped down, and I took over through a count-back process. So I was really thrusted into that role. But also the experience is wonderful, understanding the process. People want change, but there is a process to follow, which is something that I sort of learned a lot during my time as a councillor. 2 things in particular that stand out in my short time on council that I'm pretty proud of is the reforms around ticketless parking. One of the things, I had a personal experience where I received a ticket in the mailbox and a parking fine, and I was trying to put the pieces together. I was like checking my diary. I was like, I know where I was. Oh, I remember I pulled over because I had an issue with the car. And I had a dash cam as well. So I thought, okay, I can get my footage from it. But because it happened, I got the ticket like 4 weeks out from the incident. I thought that was unfair to help substantiate. So we made some reforms there at a local level, but a local government, but also on a state level. So the state government also made changes requiring that the issuance of tickets to occur as a priority.
Right.
And then the second thing, which it may not feel a lot for the average punter, but also as a councillor, the media policy that was applicable to councillors at Georges River Council didn't allow councillors to talk to their local paper about different issues, and it actually was gagging us as councillors. This is not something common. I look at other councils, in the West and other councils where I didn't see that as a problem, but our media policy did preclude or was used as a means to stop councillors from talking to their local paper or Channel 9 News about an important issue. So we were able to change that policy in council, because that was also used against me and other councillors as a means of code of conducts for us not complying with the media policy when you're just doing your job. Your job as a councillor is to advocate for your local residents about, whether it's tree issues, whether it's parking fines, whether it's, building the local pool. So I saw that as an impediment for councillors, and it's not just about me as a Labor councillor, it's all councillors who are elected to do their job as a representative to have the right to talk to the media about key issues. So they're two really important things in my short time on council that I'm pretty proud of.
Well, I'm proud of you as well.
Thanks, Jim.
Now, in 2023, you stood in the New South Wales state election in the seat of Otley.
Yes.
Unsuccessfully at the time by just 754 votes.
Yeah.
How did you feel on election night when you were surrounded by supporters and volunteers, but you were ultimately unsuccessful?
I think election night, it was too close to call at that time, and it took actually a while for the ballots to be recounted and whatnot. But that night, and even to today, I'm pretty proud of the campaign that we ran, all the volunteers and the branch members who contributed, whether it's standing at a train stall or door knocking with me, did a wonderful job. I didn't have a lot of time, but I think, we made the best of what we had with resources and the time we had, which we spent a lot of time door knocking. And I think that's the most important thing from that campaign is, that direct contact with people and hearing them out around what's important to them. I'm pretty proud. I knew that we turned every single leaf that we could for that campaign, and there was nothing that we could have done more for that campaign. Yeah.
Such is life. Because, dare I say, now you have reached a higher milestone, such as the twists and turns of life.
That's right.
Now, stepping up from a local government representative role to now being a federal member of parliament, and it's been a year, how does that feel?
It changes how you perceive things. So when you're on local council, you're in this almost like a bubble, because it's very localized issues, right? So road choke points or concerns around amenities, why fields have holes in the fields and it's not being, those kind of very, very localized issues. As a federal member, it changes how you're perceiving things. So not only are you looking after the interest of your electorate of Barton, you're also making really big decisions that impact the nation. So you're really focusing on big picture things, whether it's large industries, agriculture. So I'm on the primary industries committee, for example. I'm the only city sort of metro electorate representative on that particular committee, which is quite interesting given a lot of them have regional interests. But we still have an interest when it comes to the impacts of agriculture, critical minerals, mining. And so you're looking at really big industries, which is such a contrast to something at a very local level. But I think it's also been really good because, local government is such a close level of government to the people that you can find those impactful things, whether that's a pain point at an intersection or, amenity concerns. When you're a federal member, these are really big ticket issues around health, access to bulk billing services, aged care services as well, NDIS as well. So these are really big government infrastructures, whether it's social support or whether it's, the Sydney Airport or Western Sydney Airport, which has bigger implications for the greater nation. So there's the big contrast on optics of understanding the different issues. Yeah.
All issues are important, but bigger fish to fry.
Something like that, Jim.
And now, share with us some of your achievements over the past year and the achievements of the Albanese Labour government.
Yeah. So, we're coming to a year now, Jin. There's been a lot of legislation that we've been putting through Parliament over this past year and a bit, just under a year, sorry. And, things that I'm really proud of is around, we've got the Housing Australia Future Fund. We've got a large project in Arncliffe, development in Arncliffe, that has about 800 homes. And we recently announced with the Premier of New South Wales, Chris Minns, around 75% of that will be specifically allocated to social and affordable housing, which is great. The other thing is around bulk billing. So when I was door knocking a lot, I noticed a lot of older constituents were concerned around the lack of bulk billing services. So, at the end of last year with the introduction of funding for bulk billing services, we've seen an increase of 13 fully bulk billing services in the electorate. And so that's growing as well. So, we would have seen that steady decline of bulk billing services within the electorate, and that was very much, I heard from a lot of our locals from campaigning. The other thing as well, we introduced 3-day guaranteed childcare, which I'm pretty proud of. That started in the beginning of this year, addressing or parking that activity test so that, every child has access to at least 3 days of childcare, which is really important regardless of what the parents do for a living. The other thing that I'm pretty proud of is how we're managing the situation, particularly more recently with the fuel crisis. There are concerns around what's happening overseas. We've introduced, obviously the Prime Minister has done a lot of work with consultation with all the state and territory leaders, addressing various means or levers to make sure that we can ease the cost of fuel. But also being calm about it. I think that's the most pertinent point is the leadership around, particularly given what's happened in Iran, and how that's impacting not only just Australia, but the economy across the globe. I know in the electorate of Barton, we've got also a lot of Lebanese people who are really impacted because of family and friends that are experiencing some pretty devastating things happening there. Only about 2 weeks or so ago, we announced an additional $5 million in funding specifically for supporting aid support for people in Lebanon, which is really important given what's happening there. So, but we are getting those stories of concerns at a local level. So there's been a lot. I could probably give you a big shopping list, but they're the things that I'm pretty pretty happy that we've been focusing on, as well as the rollout of cheaper batteries as well. We've got about maybe 1,300 in the electorate. So hopefully more of you can get some more cheaper batteries as well. That's been a really huge hit to help with the cost of electricity for households, as well as also the cheaper batteries. What was the other one I was thinking of? The 5% deposit. So that's been a huge hit as well for a lot of young people in the electorate to be able to buy their first home. One of the biggest challenges waiting to save for that deposit, and being able to have that 5% deposit to get your foot in the door means that people are able to buy their first home quickly, and be able to pay down their own home instead of paying someone else's mortgage. Mortgage.
May I also add my personal favorite?
Yes.
It's the removal of credit card surcharges to kick in later this year. I've been someone who carries around cash just for the reason of the surcharge, but it's a very tangible measure that increases convenience for people and also eases cost of living pressures.
Absolutely. It's interesting that you brought that up, and I think about me personally, even my family, especially like my cousins and all that, we don't get cash. And I think we also almost just accept the surcharge as well, when in reality it's a cost that's pushed onto the consumer. So I think, it's a really good thing to make sure that we can remove that surcharge. So,
Okay. Now let's look at some challenges and opportunities. You are known to your constituents for your strong leadership and your willingness to take a stand on many issues, including what you have mentioned about standing with the Lebanese Australian community and advocating for peace in the Middle East. In general, though, are you not afraid that this willingness to speak might attract controversies?
I don't think it's something I actively think about. I think it's about, and part of leadership is being able to go through things in a calm way and trying to unpack what are the issues, but also then making a decision and trying to choose the decision that's right by my moral compass. Having really good conversations within your Labor caucus is really important as well. But also being able to respond rather than react. And I think that's one of the things when something is, a really difficult topic, it's being able to have a really mature conversation around it. And you will see the rise with social media, and I'm totally the one that goes down that rabbit hole of watching how people debate in a very robust way. And I think there's a fine line being passionate but then also being disrespectful. And so being able to have really calm, meaningful conversations in a respectful way is the only way to sort of tackle those really difficult issues. How people want to react to it is totally up to, I can't control how people want to react to a particular response on my views on something. But I think people at the end of the day want authentic people representing them. Australians are really good at seeing a BS coming out of any politician. We've seen such a, we've seen such a steady decline of trust in government, in politicians, and that's just not only here, it's broadly speaking, which is not good for good democracy. So I think if we are able to have respectful conversations and try to understand where people are at, but being authentic is probably the best way to really. It sounds very obvious, Jin, but people are very easy to fall into a bit of a pattern of trying to just go with the flow and just say things what other people want to hear. If that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. You have to be brave. That's it. And you should be able to put your head down on the pillow at night and be at peace. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Now, we were saying about social media.
Yeah.
You're also known to constituents for having great social media skills.
You can thank my communications officer for that.
Yay! And for connecting with young people.
Yeah.
Like I have to admit, as a resident in the broader Canterbury Bankstown area, my Facebook is full of updates from our community representatives.
Yeah.
But your videos do stand out, and it always brings a smile to my face.
Good. I'm glad to hear that because it's really hard doing it for me. I really struggle to do it.
Okay. In politics, a lot of decision making you would accept is still reliant on age, experience, and seniority. How do you navigate that?
Let me go back a little bit further on what you spoke about social media as a means of connecting particularly with a younger audience.
Yes.
But also it's not just a younger audience. We have changed the way how we want to, receive information. We find things that we need something to be more engaging. Politics is not sexy. But politics impacts everything and anything in people's lives. And so to be able to create content, which I have to say, I struggle doing the content because it's not natural for me to be in front of the camera and do it. So it's also a challenge for me as a new MP. But I understand that, the community that's watching it at the end of the day should have a positive message because there is also a lot of negativity that we see on social. So I think that's a good contrast, number one. But number two, making people care about these issues because I think they do care about it, but because I mentioned before, people are really becoming disenfranchised by politics. Yeah. They're losing out on really important things that particularly this Labor federal government's been focusing on. To the actual question that you asked me, I think, experience, age, and, is important But I don't think it's necessary. Like, I think young people also bring a lot of experience to the table about what they're dealing with every single day. I don't think I'm young anymore. Like, is 40 young? I don't know. 39. I like to be young at heart, and I think that's just a personality thing. But I think young people also bring. We've got Charlotte Walker, who's 21. She's the youngest senator we have. She's from South Australia, and she has so much to offer. And I think it's a bit of a. I think there's a lot of positives of having someone with experience and being older, contributing in decision making. But also, young people definitely need a seat at the table. To be part of that, of the future, that they're also, representing that next generation. So I think I probably push back a little bit on that. I think it's not just older people with experience, it's also young people are just as important that should be at the table with decision making. Yeah.
And a gentle follow-up question on that.
Yeah.
Have you ever doubted yourself?
Oh my gosh, all the time. I'm a human being. But it doesn't last long. So to doubt myself is probably an initial thought, but it doesn't linger because I see it as a bit of a distraction from just giving it a go. So I think doubting is it's more of an initial reaction to something. But I think one of the things that I'm pretty good at, I like to think I'm good at, is being able to just give it a shot and just park all that sort of feeling aside. I don't have anything to lose. And if you just, like I said, if you're just being authentic and turning up and trying your best, I think most Australians appreciate that.
That's well said. Well said. Well, now, was there ever a moment when you realized public leadership would come at a significant responsibility or cost?
I think I knew that going into this, even being a candidate. Now it's coming to a year. I do have some challenges. I talk about this with a lot of my workmates and other MPs and family. There's such a high expectation when you're in this role. I sometimes have to remind myself, Ash, you're still a human like everyone else. Particularly in this past year, I reflected that I wasn't doing very well with balancing family and this role because, as a new MP, you're expected to make sure that you can get your name out there and also demonstrate you're able to do the job and support the community. You got to set up an office.
Oh, yes,
they don't give you a manual for this, you really have to, it's running a small business. And, I'm really proud of my office. They're doing such a fabulous job, especially when half the year you're in Canberra. You're expected to still be present. And I have to remind myself there's only one of you. And you'll get the occasional comment from someone's like, oh, I just saw you before the election. I haven't seen you since then. I'm like, bro, there's just one of me. So, but also that adds on to, am I not doing enough, right? And so those are the things as a new MP that you try to figure out, how do you share your time as an MP, because we don't work 9 to 5. We're working 7 days a week around the clock, and also remembering that, the family is sitting in the background. They're like, Ash, we're still here. We're so proud of you. And they get it. But there's only so much you can do with them trying to be understanding. And so just trying to find that balance is something that I'm working on. Yeah.
Wow, we're in April, but that's like your New Year wish. Yeah.
Yeah, this was like my New Year resolution, was to make time for family. I think we're getting better at it. I like to think.
That's good. That's good. Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Looking ahead, what are your upcoming priorities for the rest of the year?
Particularly what's happening with the cost of fuel, really making sure that we have been very focused on cost of living relief. So particularly on that, we're just trying to sort of monitor how things are going, because we just don't know what will happen. We know this is not our war. We don't know when it's going to end. But it's around just making sure people have the support they need to be able to put food on the table, making sure they can pay for their medications, all those kind of things. Those cost of living relief is the biggest priority. just given what's happening now. The other thing I personally would like to see at a local level is maybe focusing on people learning more about the cheaper battery scheme and improving also just some of the engagement pieces as a local MP. So we'll be doing like a Chinese community forum focusing on, how to address with issues around scams, because scams is a big issue at the moment.
Yeah.
Or not at the moment, it's been on for a while, but it's becoming a bit quite rife.
Yeah.
So just really working on those engagement opportunities at a local level. We've got some really great organisations like ADS who are doing some work around some programs to help with women, particularly with mental health and in various diasporas. So really focusing on those sort of grassroots support at a local level. Yeah.
The Chinese Australian community have been, just personal anecdote wise, have been flooded with scam calls. That's
It's pretty scary to hear about it, and talking to some of my officers in my team that tell me about some cases that come through. So really just educating people about all these really good stuff, particularly that we've been focusing on the sort of that first year. We've also announced, the Prime Minister announced around the gambling reforms. Gambling is a huge issue, not only in the electorate of Barton, but it crosses over to the seat of Banks as well. That is a really important matter, which the Prime Minister announced a raft of really important reforms to help reduce or manage the access of gambling advertisements on television, live sports during school drop-offs, all these kind of means to really focus on young people who are now falling into this void of gambling, which is something that's quite concerning, and really trying to get that message out to the community. Even the social media ban was a really interesting response. I mean, the community were really happy with it, particularly parents and teachers, and we did run 2 forums as well to educate.
Wow.
So really educating our community is probably the biggest thing for me around all these really good things that we're focusing on.
Lots of exciting stuff to watch out for.
Yeah.
Okay, last but not least, in one word,
gosh.
what motivates you every day?
What motivates me? Love. I feel like I said, the way I was raised, I always try to see the good in people, and people do have different experiences that might cause them to talk a particular way, or respond or react in a particular way, and being patient is very important. But love is something, and it sounds very the word. It sounds very like airy-fairy, but I think when you make time to understand where people are at, I think that requires a little bit of love. So,
Okay. Thank you once again for, really joining us today. And I think we're lucky to have you, and your authenticity does come through. So once again, my name is Jing Chen from Oz Arab Media. Stay tuned to the next episode of Beyond Politics, and of course, stay tuned to Oz Arab Media.